Hey everyone, this is the full video of every interview I did at Central State's Numismatic Convention in 2025. There were some really awesome interviews in there, one with Jeff Garrett and the ANA president, Thomas Yurum. I really think these interviews are a great way to expand your knowledge about coin collecting and just get some questions answered that a lot of people aren't thinking about. Timestamps are below if you want to skip to a specific interview. And leave me a comment of people you want to see interviewed next. Next show is the fun show, so we'll be getting plenty of interviews there. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so let's go ahead and get into the interviews.
Jeff Garrett, and we are at the 2025 Central States Convention in Schaumburg, Illinois, and it's probably about my 45th or 50th Central States show, and I think I've ever had a bad one. This has been a great show.
Awesome. You just did your talk on the Kentucky Horde.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that? How did that go?
Yeah, it went really, really well. About 2 years ago, a guy in Kentucky came to my office and had found 800 gold coins in a cornfield. And that sounds like a pretty simple story, but the coins were buried in 1863. And I've actually got a couple of the coins here. I can show you a couple of them.
Oh yeah,
but
awesome.
I did a talk about it, and I kind of call it my little talk tour, and it's about a half an hour or so talk about. The guy calls me up one day, starts with a mysterious phone call, meets in the office, does like a slow reveal. He's got this one coin that's worth $10,000, and all of a sudden he's got 3 of them, and they're worth $100,000 a piece. Then I find out he's got 18 of them, and then he's got 800 coins. It was like just the craziest deal of all time. And if you haven't seen the presentation, what I did today was the Numismatic portal, and it's online. People can watch it online. And it's about a 45-minute presentation, and it's really a fun story to hear about. It's one of the crazy. I've done a lot of crazy things in my career, things that have come my way, and this top's pretty close to the top of the list.
Yeah, that's insane. I didn't realize it was you who was like.
Yeah.
Were you like cataloging it or helping him?
No, he
auction,
came into my office after he found him. He didn't even know what he had, and then he came to my office, and I took care of the explained to him and helped him. He basically had won a lottery ticket, and he was looking for the places to cash his ticket.
Right.
So my job was to get the most for the coins, and then also to make sure he stayed out of legal trouble. That people didn't attack his land and dig it up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we successfully did that. I was just looking at the presentation. It was 2 years ago this year. So we just got that accomplished. So it's gone real well, and it's still. I still like telling the story because it's just a crazy story.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, they were. This is one of the double eagles from the treasure, but this is not the rare one. This is 1862S. It's an 1862S double eagle, and it is that's probably about a $10,000 coin. The 1863s that were in the treasure, we sold for $250,000 a piece. 3 or 4 coins.
Wow.
They were unbelievable. So you can see then the back of it. There's the back of it with the lesser stuff. Really, it's really neat.
And so, what were they found in? Was it just in the ground?
They were in the dirt. Yeah, they were in the dirt, and they have been pretty much. They were. One of the coins had the imprint of a canvas sack in it, so it was almost for sure in a canvas bag when they were buried. Probably about 2 or 3 feet of dirt.
Okay.
But if you get if you're watching this, go look it up and see the video. It's really a lot of fun. I mean, the whole presentation is a really fun story.
Yeah, for sure. So how long have you been like in the coin industry?
I've been doing coins professionally since I was 16, and that was 1974. So this year it'd be 51 years. So I've been doing coins, full time as a job, to doing it. So
okay. And where did you get your start? Was it at shows like this, or
I was
in a
really lucky, and I encourage anybody watching this. When I was like 14, 15 years old, I lived in Tampa, Clearwater area, and there were coin clubs everywhere. And I could go to coin club almost every few nights. There would be one in my general area, the Tampa Bay area. And there were a lot of mentors there, and taught me things, showed me coins, and then there was a few little coin shows down there. And so I started when I was like 12 or 13, but by the time I was 16, I was actually, doing it professionally, making money doing it.
Wow.
By the time I was 17 or 18, I was doing really, really well with it. So it was kind of, my timing was good, because in 1979, was when the gold and silver had the Hunt brothers. Silver went to $50, and it was like a big boom in the coin business. So my timing has always been really, really good.
Okay, so have good timing. That's one.
Yeah, that helps.
Tip.
Well, like right now, I mean, you're young, you're in the hobby now, and gold's $3,000 an ounce. That's pretty crazy.
That's insane.
It's insane. Yeah, and also now, you're young, you're in the hobby, and someone invented the internet. I mean, it's like there's so many things that can stimulate the hobby that you're at the right place at the right time that can be very fortunate.
Yeah, yeah. So do you remember like a specific coin that made you fall in love with the hobby?
Yeah, Lincoln pennies. Lincoln pennies for this. So I very, very, very first start was someone gave me a Lincoln folder for Lincoln pennies like 1941 to date, when I was collecting in like the 70s. And I would go in and go to the bank, buy some penny rolls, and then pull the coins out, stick them in the thing. And I'm really compulsive, obsessive disorder thing. And having empty holes in the catalog drove me crazy.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I had to go find those coins, and just got me hooked on the hobby. So Lincoln pennies, definitely from the very beginning, Lincoln pennies were my thing. So I got into it and loved them.
Okay.
And I just got obsessed by it.
Yeah, I mean it's a very collectible series.
Yeah.
Still going today.
Yeah, and also the Whitman folders with the holes in the albums are still a magic. I mean, if you're watching this, if you want to get a kid hooked on coins, buy them an album and give them some coins and start filling holes. And most of them can't stand holes in the albums. It still works its magic.
Yeah, it's just a good time too.
Yeah, it's fun to look for this stuff. You never know what you'll find in circulation.
Yeah. Do you remember the moment that you knew coins would be your career?
That's a good question. I think yes, a little bit. In 1974, I was 16. And I won a scholarship to summer seminar in Colorado, A&A, and I'd never been on an airplane before. So first time I'd flown on an airplane. Went to Colorado Springs from Florida, which is a big adventure when you're 16 by yourself. And when I got there, I took a class on colonial coins, and my teacher was Ken Brissett, which editor of Red Book, which I eventually took over 40 years later. And when I was there, we were buying and selling some coins, a little hustling among the kids, which they still do. I mean, if you're young people that go to summer seminar, they all at night they're buying and selling with each other, doing the exact same thing 50 years later that we were doing at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, this is pretty fun, man. I can make money doing this. And then I kind of realized that, I'm actually pretty good at it too. So this is something I think I can do well. And by the time I was in high school, I kidded people when I was in my senior year of high school. I had a better car than the principal did, so I was like, "This is really really lucrative." I like that. I like that idea. So
Yeah.
I had a 1976 Pontiac. What was it? Pontiac something. I can't remember. I remember the car was green. I'll never forget my first car I bought with coin money. It was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
In high school.
In high school, yeah, in high school. So yeah,
Very.
paid for it in cash too. So
Get started now.
Yeah, now.
Okay, this is a good one. If someone gave you $100,000 to start a collection from scratch, would your first 3 coins be?
To start a collection from scratch. That's a good thing. So I'll tell people the biggest mistake you can make in coins is to buy something in high grade that's common. Like 3-cent nickels are kind of cool in proof, like 65, but don't buy a common day one, because that coin has been the same price for 50 years, 40 years. Back in the 80s, that coin was $300 or $400. Now they're $400. So they didn't go up.
Yeah.
And what goes up are scarce coins, because as the hobby grows, there's more demand for those lower number coins. So, for instance, if you had 100 grand, here's how I would do it. I would start a typeset of coins, like one of every type, but then buy the rarest one you can't find of each type.
Okay.
So if you're going to buy a Lincoln penny for your set, get an SVDB. If you're going to buy a Mercury dime, get the 16D. It's 30 Washington quarters, get the 32D. Because as the hobby grows, there's more demand for those rare coins, and they'll go up in price. And they have gone up in price. If you buy a 1932 Washington quarter, there's so many of them that you couldn't add enough collectors in the world to make them go up in price.
Right.
So it's really always going to be common. I mean, they're cool, they may be fun to collect, but if you're really looking for something that's going to be a good return on your money, it's stay with rarity. And then the other thing is find something with a good story, because people love stories.
Yeah.
And that's why the books I write is a lot of the stories.
Gotcha.
So, hope that's a good advice for somebody.
Yeah. So it's that your 3 picks would be
so
1932 Washington?
Yeah, that would be good. I think if you start a typeset, and I think I would do, maybe I would do like a 2.5 Indian and do an 11D. That would be good, because that's a short series. People can complete it, but that's the one they always need.
Yeah.
SCDB penny is great. Other one I think is great is the Fujio penny. I love the Fujio, because that's a coin that, the very first coin ever made by America. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the United States, and there's going to be a lot of interest in our colonial history.
Yeah. How accurate is the claim that Ben Franklin designed the future set?
I think everything I know is I think he was certainly involved and influential in the design, because some of the colonial notes that he did has that same that ring
sundial,
thing,
yeah.
right, sundial, and I think so. I think Mind Your Business. I think it's definitely all about Ben Franklin.
Gotcha.
I believe that story.
All right, cool. So you've been to a lot of coin shows.
Lots of them. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've seen happen at a coin show?
I can tell you the craziest thing happened. So this is interesting. So this is this month's edition of the Centennial, the Central States Magazine.
Okay.
So I wrote an article in here, and it says, and it's about the market crash of 1980. So this is a really good story. So if you want to show a close-up, this is my photo ID when at that coin show.
Awesome.
That was pretty brave of me, I think, to put that out there.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
From 1980. So that's 45 years ago.
Wow.
But at this coin show, the coin market crashed. Coins were from the beginning of the show to the end of the show, coins are worth half what they were at the beginning of the show. So it's because the bullion market crashed, and all the dealers, the coin market at the time was very immature, and most of the market for rare coins were for dealers, not collectors.
Okay.
Dealers bought most of the coins. They took their bullion profits, bought rare coins. All of a sudden, all their bullion profits disappeared, and they were losing money, and coins literally crashed at the coin show. And it's really a fun story. You should read that. It's a short little article, but it's something that can never happen today because there's too many collectors that have the demand.
Yeah.
They will support the market. But literally, there were coin dealers that went bankrupt at the coin show. So that's probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen at one coin show. That's a true story. And there's less and less people now still alive that were at that show. It's 45 years ago. But it was everybody has crazy stories from that coin show. What happened?
Yeah, what in the world? I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's a true story, and read that article when you get a chance. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, can I take a picture of it?
No, you can have the magazine. You can have that magazine.
Oh, sweet! I'll read that on my plane right
now. Yeah, read it now. It's good. So, but it is a little bit of a cautionary tale. Nothing goes straight up, and something could happen, and I always tell people when you're in the coin business, you got to protect the downside, and things can change.
Yeah.
It depends what happens. But luckily it's funny, like the coin market keeps getting what I call like bailed out. It's like coin market's like floundering, and then all of a sudden third-party grading comes up, makes a big demand. The coin market's kind of floundering. Someone invents the internet, demand goes up. Now the coin market flounders. Someone invents social media, another big demand. So it's like these big mega trends that have happened that keep the coin market stimulated. And it seems hopefully that won't end, but that's what it's kind of an interesting way it works out.
Yeah, we're looking at some point in the future trying to bring coin shows into virtual reality.
Yeah,
and
it would be
so I'm thinking that's maybe another.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Direction.
I mean, people, I still think people love coin shows. I still like going to them. You get to meet legends in the hobby. You can see coins that you could never see, and seeing them in real life is really a neat experience. And I give it a little bit to people. To me, it's like Vegas. For years and years and years, Vegas was the only place to gamble, maybe Atlantic City. And now there's a casino everywhere, but Vegas is still doing good because, you might go to a little casino locally, but it's still when you want to go to the big show.
Yeah.
You want to see the real deal, see the real thing. So, and coins are sort of experiential, I think, and I think coin shows are still a good experience.
Yeah, no, for sure.
A lot of fun. It's fun.
I like being here more than I do the office.
Yeah, it's a buzz. You get to see a lot of stuff happening, and it's a cool thing. And it's all kinds of crazy stuff you see.
Yeah. So is there a coin that you think is undervalued right now, and why?
A coin is undervalued.
Could be undervalued from an intrinsic
what I think I really like what I really like that people may not maybe a little esoteric for you, but I really like ancient coins because I think the ancient market is still immature. American collectors have just really in the last 5 or 10 years discovered it. About 10 years ago, I started doing. I have a whole ancient division now.
Yeah.
And I love ancient coins because a coin, if it was a U.S. coin, a similar rarity, and it would be worth 10 times as much.
Yeah.
I think they're underpriced, and also it's a global market. There's a demand. Everybody, no matter what country you are, you would be interested in Greek coinage. Coins are beautiful. I personally, when I put things away, when I save for myself, it's ancient coins.
Yeah.
So I don't save U.S. coins. I buy and sell those.
Yeah.
But I save ancient coins.
Yeah, I think that might be, if not the only right answer, one of the best answers I've gotten so far.
Yeah.
Ancient coins for sure.
I think they're very underpriced. They're
The
very
fact
cool.
that you can have them raw over there for $20 a pop, $40 a
I know,
pop.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that'll change because they're harder to get hard to get in America, and I think they're just a great coin to have.
Yeah.
I love them, and some of them are just absolutely pieces of art. They're really just gorgeous.
Okay, this is the last one.
Okay.
It might be the Kentucky Horde, but what's the coolest deal that you've been a part of that you like to brag about a little bit?
Well, the coolest thing I've done, the coolest collection I've ever been involved in, is not the Kentucky Horde. The Kentucky Horde is cool because of its, the treasure aspect.
Yeah.
But the neatest collection I ever did was called the Dukes Creek Collection of Gold. And there was a guy in Georgia, this is probably going back 15 years ago, maybe even more, but he put together the finest set of Dahlonega gold, a complete set, gold dollars, 2.5s, 3 and 5s, and every coin was mint condition, and the average condition was like MS63. So
Wow.
we sold the deal almost 20 years ago for almost $5 million. So it tell you a significant deal that was. So that was by far the coolest coins that I had ever, of a collection of like, it had taken decades to put together. I got to liquidate it. And actually the collection got broken up to the wind, except for the $5 gold pieces are still owned by one person. They're all in one collection.
Okay, that's cool.
And to tell you how cool it is, the 1853D $5 gold piece is grade MS67.
Wow.
So there's nothing, the finest Dahlonega gold piece.
That's insane.
It's staggering. So that was probably the neatest collection I've ever had a chance to handle. It was fun. And it was fun. It's been so long ago now, I barely remember. I need to do another one like that. So.
Yeah, next time one pops up, call me and I'll
I'm
record
here.
it for you.
I'm ready for everybody. Let me know. That'd be
Awesome.
good. Well, I hope that helped you out.
Yeah, that was great. Anything else
good.
you want to say or plug or mention?
No,
before we wrap it
I
up?
just think that I'm glad to see young people like you guys out there trying to spread the hobby, get the love out there. It's all about the stories, and it's to me, it's what makes the hobby fun is the personalities and the great stories. That's what good.
Yeah.
It's good when you can all share it, and it's not all about making money. But to me, I go to these coin shows and I see my best friends here, so it's really good for a great community.
Hello, my name is Hunter Hicks. I'm here with Charleston Rare Coins out of Charleston, South Carolina, and we are here at the Central States Numismatic Society 2025 convention. It is Nebraskan themed, I believe. Hopefully I got that right. Love the Cornhuskers and love being here in Schaumburg.
And it's your birthday.
It is my birthday too. I was gonna try to do the interview while eating cake. Ugh. But I was thinking that might make it hard to talk, and it makes my teeth very, very blue. And I just thought that was not the right look for the company. But it's big.
It matches some of the booth colors already.
It does a little bit, yeah. You have the right ribbons for it. It's the sacrifices you make for coins, 24th birthday at a coin show. No place I'd rather be.
So how long have you been in the coin industry?
Yeah, so I started collecting when I was like 10. I started with like a pretty standard like antique shop, saw a steel cent, got really into it, grew up working for coin shops, like in high school and going to coin clubs, and then did a couple years with CAC grading kind of as like the intern, then head intern, then senior head intern, and am now working out in Charleston for Charleston Rare Coins.
Talk a little bit about Charleston Rare Coins. What do you guys specialize in? What's the main thing you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we're a little bit newer to the buying game, but I think we've kind of tried to basically inject rocket fuel into it and have created a really nice inventory of a lot of US gold, a lot of Carson City stuff, a lot of like just quality, the standard, great CAC graded coins. I don't know if you can really see the cases here, but just a ton of gold in all quantities, but also like a level of variety from like kind of generic 20s, something where everyone can collect it, to some really true rarities. We have a 95 Morgan over there in 68. So yeah, kind of just mostly US type and expanding as quickly as we can into every other arena.
Do you remember like the first coin that kind of made you fall in love with coin collecting?
Jeez, yeah, it definitely would have been like a steel cent. And I think at the time it was like, I don't know, that was such a weird like realization of like how this coin is so reflective of history with like a steel cent being made instead of the standard copper because of them needing copper for a war. And I think I just kind of fell in love with the idea that like I can value something now that like generations and dozens and hundreds of people have valued before me. And I just think it's way cooler to collect something like that versus something that only now like has value. So yeah, I feel like I'm just collecting something that I don't know how many other people have appreciated.
Do you remember that moment when you knew that this would kind of be your career?
Jeez. I saw my tax return last year. That made me want it to be my career and not. I kind of did a lot of like buying local collections in the past few years. I'm from Northern Virginia, so just buying a lot in that area. And I think there's just something about like, no, I think this was it. I was like coming home from some show in California, and I like got home at like 8 p.m. or something, and somebody texted me. They're like, out in Eastern Maryland. It was like a 2-hour drive for me. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. It was like 11 p.m. and I was buying a collection at a Starbucks. And there was just something like so cool about that of like, I'm just so psyched right now and like, this is where I want to be in my life. So that was like a huge moment for me of like, God, like I just can't imagine what other industry is going to give me this joy.
That is such a Gen Z origin story.
I'm here to represent, you know. These are my people.
What is that like, sort of being like a younger dealer in the industry? You seem pretty experienced already in your line of work, but what's that like being the new guy?
I love it. I feel like everyone's nice to me because of it, so that's a good start. It's cool to like be the young person everyone's nice to, and I'm also growing up with this cohort of people that I've now known for 10 years, basically as long as any of my friends from like my local neighborhood. And so now it's cool too. I'm do counseling I'm like the counselor for Summer Seminar. I've done that for Whittercoin U. I'm doing the Next Gen program through the PNG. And it's just cool. Like, I feel like I've gone to a point through all this mentorship and all these people willing to mentor me. And I'm hoping I can do that for the next generation. And I just think there's so much opportunity for kids this age and even up to my age and basically anyone under 30. So I don't know. I think it's like the best time to be. It's the golden age of being a YN in coins, basically.
Yeah. So what is your primary focus? What do you like to collect personally?
Yeah, I feel like as I've dealt more, my standard has gotten raised more and more. Yeah. What my main like passion project is now is I have a 1916 cash register I'm filling, kind of trying to make coins of the era. So it's a 1916 National Cash Register, or is that the right? Yeah, NCR. And so I think it would be really cool to have this thing, and I've worked on it for a few years now, where you click the buttons, it opens, and it would look the same as a cash register would in 1916. Like, so you have a bunch of UNC 1916 cents if a roll just opened, some different pre-33 in the back. So yeah, that's not like one specific thing, but I think that's like, when it comes to like, if I have 5K I'm gonna go spend on the floor for myself, that would be kind of what I'm working on. Because I just think that's like, no one's gonna ever look at that and be like, and not think it's cool. Yeah. At least so far.
Like that could be an exhibit.
Exactly, yeah.
That's awesome. If somebody gave you $100,000 to build a collection from scratch, what would your first 3 coins be?
First 3 coins? Good question. 100K. Coins are so like one of a kind, you know? So it would be interesting to kind of see like what eye appeal would be drawn to me first. I think I would definitely need like a really like crusty or like just really nicely toned bust half. I think those are just so cool, especially when you get kind of the fun color on them, and like a really nice grade one where it's like, why does this coin still exist, and why is this possible that it's 200 years old and so pretty still? So definitely one of those. I still am like a huge 1792 half diem fan. I go to UVA now, and there's like this story of Thomas Jefferson, like he needed to show that the U.S. had these coins and that we are like a real country that produces coins, and he was sprinkling the 1792 half deems along his route. And I just think it's so cool to like think of like that, like maybe in, you know, my college town of Charleston, like probably not the same bars I was going to, but maybe a bar that was there 200 years ago, like that same coin would have been used. And sorry, I need 3. I'm probably just a really crusty seated dollar. Those I think are just like so pretty and so like Americana focused to me. So I just think they're beautiful.
When you say crusty, what do you mean?
So I'm in a coin that's gonna be like super original and have like, it's not gonna be like this bright white coin. It'll be something kind of more of like an XF, like a fairly worn coin, but you still kind of have all the details there. And something that like you can see is toned over time over the past 150, 170 years, and just has this look of like, it's never been messed with, it's just original, it's beautiful, and just a coin like that where, you know, I don't feel like any time between me and when it was originally used has anyone's ever like messed with it too much or damaged it or done anything super negative to it, and it's just served its purpose to a T.
We got a new numismatic term.
Oh yeah. Crusty original, yeah.
Rusty original. So have you been to a lot of coin shows?
Yeah, I mean, I started when I think my first like ANA, like the big ANA World's Fair of Money show might have been 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
So definitely like in high school, not as much. Now I probably go to, I don't know, 6 of the big ones a year and then another 6 kind of local ones in Virginia. Anytime I can go, I like to though. And I think each show kind of has its own purpose. So a big show like this, it's great to be able to like sell some great retail coins, buy a bunch of crazy cool coins. And then at smaller shows too, they're great, I think, either to buy stuff more on the low end or to just source stuff where there are these dealers who are not gonna like be able to come to a show like this, but that you can find great stuff and do a little bit more cherry picking, kind of dig more of like the diamond in the rough with those. So yeah, I would say 12 shows a year though is kind of your question.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen at a coin show?
Craziest thing in a coin show? There's this guy that goes to A&A every year and he makes balloon animals for everyone. And I'm sorry this has nothing to do with coins, but that is just like the coolest thing of like, I was working for CAC at the time accepting submissions. And then I was in the middle of, it was like a box of like $20 golds. And I was like, I'm sorry, sir, I have more important things to do. And I got I think I got a balloon sword and that was just epic. So yeah, probably not the answer you're looking for, but that was pretty epic. And I don't know if you can top that.
No, that is a perfect answer. I guess we could talk a little bit about some coins.
Yeah, that might be good.
That's like, that you're really excited that you have.
Yeah, let's do some. So we'll start here with an 1856 Flying Eagle cent. So I think this is kind of like one of the it's the first small cent size right after when the large cent was popular. So there's this huge debate whether this is like a proof or a circulation strike coin. But it's just a super cool coin. It's kind of like a key date of the series. And it's just like an epic coin to exist. This one's really cool especially because it also has that gold CAC sticker on it to signify by John Albanese that this coin is better than a 63 for the grade. So it's kind of one of these cool coins that like to begin with is already cool and then has all these other bells and whistles to go along with it. So this is just kind of an epic coin. And I don't know, I think any collector would be like, it's a very popular, everyone knows what an 1856 Flying Eagle is. So to get one like this, with all this extra stuff going on and just a really beautiful example of one is pretty cool. This coin, everyone loves a Stella. This is a CAC graded proof 66 Stella. I don't know. If you want to show like you're into coins or like you just want someone's jaw to drop, this is always a cool coin to show. Just as like an epic story of numismatics even. It is, I think, such a distinct design on the back, reverse too, with like the star. So just in terms of like its design history is cool. The fact it's a $4 gold coin's crazy. And this is just a really nice example of one. Again, in a CAC holder, 66 cam, like that's just lit. Next is kind of like the king of coins, the king of Morgans at least. In 1895, what is this? It's 68 cam. I believe that's finest known, plus the CAC sticker on it. So in 1895, that is a proof only year for Morgans, and anyone who wants to do like a full set of Morgans would need this coin. It is the key date of the series, and this again is like the finest known. This is like a killer coin, especially with it being CAC rated. It seems like everyone in coins kind of loves the look of this one, and you know, it's another jaw dropper. So a great coin to show as well. Two more. This one is kind of just the look you want to have for gold, especially early gold. So this is a 1795 $10. I don't know. This coin just kind of, I'm just saying the same things about every coin, but this one just like has everything with it. Super original again. Gold can often look messed with. The color on this I like a lot. It just looks nice. Super like early America. It kind of makes you like, kind of have that same vibe of like who held this, what was going on when this coin was made and designed. And it has a little bit of circulation too. And just I don't know, imagining those first few uses of this is just so crazy to me, so.
Yeah, and that's first year in issue too. It's the
right.
first gold coin ever struck under in the United States, which is super sick.
Yeah, you could just talk about this coin for, I don't know, years, basically. So those are kind of like just some really crazy ones. This is one that I just thought would be good to bring out. It's just not quite in like some of the 6-figure ranges some of these would be, but just another really cool, this is a coin we bought at this show. And it has some amazing color on it. I think, you know, Morgans are kind of known to be like coins where you're gonna get monster toning on them. I thought this was just a really great example of a Mint State bust $50. You got some really great rainbow toning on the reverse and the obverse. It's cacked. So the color, I think we believe, and everyone I think believes, is completely original. So I don't know. I keep going back to this coin just to look at it, to make sure we still own it. Yeah. Well, this would be a great example of crusty, because it's like, when I want a crusty coin, I want it to have like some circulation on it.
Okay.
This is like original and cool. I wouldn't go so far. We need to be picky when we use the word crusty.
Okay.
We can't overuse it.
Not Mint State.
No, this coin, I would imagine not as much with, or like, not with this one at least. Crusty, I think it was more of like kind of a dark, but like original look to it.
Okay.
I'm probably just being persnickety in my use of words now too.
You
but
coined it, so it's
coined it. That was pretty good, pretty sly.
unintended, but it worked out.
That I'm excited to look at, excited to own, excited to show.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that'd be my last one. You said originally, like, if I had $100,000, what would be some coins I'd have? This would probably be one of them.
All right, is there anything else you want to say or mention or plug before we wrap things up?
I think it's good. Thank you to Premier Rare Coin for videotaping me and for getting me on the schedule. It was like, I don't know, I was excited I made it this time. If anyone wants, oh, sorry, you want to go?
No, he's been on here forever.
I love the video camera. We're good friends. If you appreciate good coins, make sure to check us out on charlestonrarecoins.com. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, got that first try. Or see us at a show. It will be my birthday next show, so make sure to stop by and say happy birthday for that.
Hi, I'm Viken Yegparian, Executive Vice President at Stax Bowers Galleries. We're here at the Central States Numismatic Society Coin Show. I love coming here because hit a different contingent of people than I usually see out on the East Coast or wherever else. Isaac, what would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about you, if you don't mind.
About me? Sure.
When did you get started in the coin industry?
Well, I got started, I'm not that old, but I got started way before you were born. I've been doing this since I was 6. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, so all of us collected stuff along the way, but my oldest brother was more into coins. He got me into it, and I kind of went thermonuclear from there. He was more a casual collector, roll searching and things, and that's a lot of what we did when we were young, but I kind of went crazy with it, went to the ANA summer seminars. Bill Fivaz and JT Stanton got me a scholarship in 1991 to go to my first one. I was very grateful to them and have been ever since. So I've had a lot of great mentors early on. When I grew up in New Jersey, in central New Jersey, I was a member of the Ocean County Coin Club, and there were lots of great individuals who were a member of that club that kind of took me under their wing, mentored me in many ways. So I realized, looking back, I learned a lot from these guys. Some collecting U.S. coins, Byzantine coins, errors, VAMs, everything. So I kind of got a very early education.
So what was that moment like when you realized that coins was going to be your career?
I came kind of late. I think I always thought I would do something with numismatics at some point in my life, and I just didn't think that it would be at age 22 or 23 when I started at Stax 25 years ago. So it was it's been really fun the entire time. I mean, like Dave Bauer says, I haven't worked a day in my life because I love what I do and can't imagine doing anything else.
Do you remember like a specific coin that kind of made you fall in love with the hobby?
No, I think it was just I just was really into coins. It just clicked with me. But I do remember. So my brother got me into it. He tried to get me into it when I was 6, and I collected for a little bit, but it wasn't super strong. But around the time of my 9th birthday, he took me around to local banks where we lived in New Jersey, looking for silver $50. And I remember distinctly sitting in a parking lot of this bank in New Jersey and pouring out a roll of $50 in my hand, and they were all 1964 90% silver Kennedys. And I was 9 years old. I was shaking. It was just awesome. So
that's awesome.
I mean, that's a very
It was like $40.
yeah, probably back then, or maybe a little bit more. I don't remember, but it was. I mean, that's kind of a memory. It wasn't a coin, but I collected all sorts of things then, and just learned a lot about numismatics by doing that. So
You've worked at Stax pretty much your whole career, right?
Yeah.
And you may have touched on this in Berlin, but is there a specific collection or deal that you got to work on that's like you like to brag about?
I mean, it's always fun to talk about high value things, but I mean, one collection that was relatively recent, 2019, it was called the E. Horatio Morgan collection. It's a pseudonym because the family didn't want to use the collector's real name, but he had collected in a very discrete amount of time, I think in the mid 80s to the very early 90s, he got hooked on early half dollars. He had the better part of a complete set of Overdens, early half dollars by die variety. And for some of the die varieties, for some of the dates, and had multiples, like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of certain varieties. But he had a lot of the rare ones too, obviously. He was missing, I forgot the exact stats, but he was missing 6 or 8 coins from the entire Overden set, as would have been known during his collecting period. So, I mean, that was really fun to work with, but the really cool thing about the E. Horatio Morgan collection was it wasn't just the half dollars. There was like 110 patterns. There was different patterns, not like repetitive, the common ones, but lots of great ones from 1792 Deem and Copper to late 1800s patterns. He had an 1894 S dime, an 1884 trade dollar, an 1885 trade dollar, an 1838 half dollar. So he had some great individual rarities as well. So I mean, that was the biggest deal that I had worked on, that I'd gotten in myself, and it was from a referral from somebody I knew when I was 15. I've literally been doing this all my life, and it's kind of fun for things to come full circle. And that deal came not only because of the referral, but because the family ended up meeting with me and trusting me to shepherd their family's coins through the auction process, and so that they could walk away and just enjoy the fruits of their relatives' labor. So everything was presented in catalogs in 2019 and early 2020, starting in the summer. The first coins were in the A&A auction, summer of 2019. So, but yeah, you can definitely find it in our archives or our hard copy catalog if anyone uses those these days.
Yeah.
Happy to get you one.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you've got a copy.
I'm sure there are some out there.
So I can't remember if we talked about this in Berlin, but are you a collector yourself?
I do. Look, we're the collecting bug never goes away.
Yeah.
So I collect things that are kind of personal to me or that kind of off the wall topics. I'm Armenian, so I've collected and do collect Armenian coins. I grew up in central New Jersey, so I've collected tokens and paper money, obsoletes and nationals from the area that I grew up. And one of my favorite recent topics has been collecting around like July 4th and Independence in 1776 in numismatics, but I've kind of focused on the first 100 years, 1776 to like 1875, because in 1876 with the centennial there was this huge proliferation of tokens and medals that there's so many. I just wanted a more focused project, and it's just been fun kind of discovering things because it's not a theme that's been well covered. I mean, there's medals that fit in that category that are parts of other series, but no one's looked at it in exactly that way. And I actually gave a talk at the American Numismatic Society on the topic in December of 2024. So it's always fun. I realized from my own experience as well as from many clients' experience that it's easy to accumulate things, to go out on the show floor and buy stuff. But sometimes when you don't engage with the things, if you're not learning about them or studying them in hand, they just sit in a box somewhere, right? So putting that talk together forced me to re-engage with my collection as well as with the topic, and it's some of the most fun that you have when you're actually engaging with the objects. And it's both happy and sad. Like I've worked with a lot of people who are at the end of their collecting career and they're going towards selling their coins, and it's sometimes when they have the most fun because they're going back through decades of their collecting, kind of piecing together all the history of their purchases and studying the coins again. And it's this like era of discovery of kind of re-engaging with their collection as a whole, and sometimes they have the most fun that they've had because they didn't do that along the way necessarily as they were collecting. So
that makes sense. I read an article that it talked about how, because when you're looking at the coin, it's like a specific image that's pretty consistent throughout, and so you're able to like take that and it helps you retain the memory from that moment of looking at that coin.
Yeah.
And, like, helps you remember the history. So.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I've talked to people where they've bought things, and sometimes very expensive things that they've forgotten they bought because maybe they didn't engage with it enough in the beginning. we're still selling the Sid Martin collection, which we started in 2022, I believe. So we're going 3 years now, and he had 20,000 objects, and he wrote 4 books about colonial-related coins, colonial topics, and one way that he wrote those books was by gathering up as many of these coins as he could. So he wrote a book on St. Patrick coinage, on Rosa Americana coins, on Woods Hibernia coppers, and on French colonial coins. So part of the way he wrote that book was to buy as many coins as possible, to study them, to document the die variety. So you can imagine he had many, many duplicates along the way, which we've been taking many years to sell. He had bought a Morgan Commission Americana medal at the Ford sale in 2000 and I forgot the exact year, to say 2005 when we sold that. And then fast forward to 2019, he forgot he had bought that one and bought another one in 2019 at another one of our auctions. And there are only four of these medals known, but he was fortunate for buying both of them because they both brought a lot more than he had paid for them, because the Commission Americana Medal series, the medals produced by Congress for Revolutionary War heroes, that topic has become very popular. They're all very rare. I mean, a single piece in private hands for one of the issues to small handfuls for the others. So they all range from 4 figures to low 6 figures for these coins. With one of the one that was unique, we sold for $900,000 or something like that for a bronze medal. There were some people that needed that one to complete their sets. So there was a lot of auction button heads.
Do you collect anything outside of coins?
Not strongly. I mean, there are things that are related to. So one of the things that I do collect are medals related to Columbia University, where I went to school. So they've been in existence for 250 years, and they've produced various award medals and commemorative medals along the way. Well, in the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s, they produced medals that were the work of a sculptor by the name of Oronzio Maldarelli, who did the designs for one of the Society of Medalists medals in 1962, I believe. But he also did, as I said, some of the Columbia University medals. But he was an instructor of sculpture at Columbia University in the 50s, give or take. And he did some sculptures himself. So I've collected some of the sculptures that he produced. But the way I collect, and I'm guessing many other collectors, is one thing leads me to another. So it was the Columbia medals that led me to Oronzio Maldarelli and the Society of Medalists medal and the sculpture. So one thing kind of leads to another.
Cool. Hey, you don't need to collect anything other than coins. I just like to ask.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. Like I talked to somebody earlier who does model trains.
Oh yeah.
Coins and model trains. Why not?
It's crazy if you start asking lots of people on the floor, they collect all sorts of things other than coins or paper money. So
if someone gave you $100,000 to build a collection from scratch, what would your first 3 coins be?
What would my first 3 coins be? Well, I've always wanted to build a collection of coins that were kind of the important coins in history. So it's kind of open-ended. Wow, it's tough choosing.
It's a tough one.
Tough choosing what I'd buy.
Yeah, because it's not an unlimited budget.
No, of course.
There's potential for more coins to be in the set as well.
Yeah.
So you gotta be conservative with the first 3.
Look, I think if I was choosing an American-related coin, I'd probably start with just a beautiful Noe 1 pine tree shilling, which is that iconic, very simple tree, but they're usually on huge planchets, and they're just awesome looking, especially when they're well preserved. So I'd probably want a Noe 1 pine tree shilling. I think as I said, I collect things personal to me. So Armenian coins. There's one favorite Armenian coin which I'd love to find one day, and would include in this $100,000 purchase. King Dikran the Great. He produced many tetradrams, but there's only a small handful of them that actually say King of Kings on it. So it's one of the best styled ones, and in this market with NGC labeling things as fine styled, this is a fine style Armenian tetradram. So I'd want to include one of those. So we've got an American coin, we've got an ancient coin, and let's see, let's do a world coin. So one of the coins that I love is the Central American Republic 8 reals with the mountain landscape on it. So I remember seeing one as a kid that was 1840 something, like a gem proof, like, I mean, just awesome coin. So I'd want to hunt down one of those and find it. And I think I'd get those 3 coins and hopefully have a little bit of money left over too.
Yeah, see, I like your style because it's mostly like pre-colonial.
Yeah, there's lots of history there, but also lots of cool designs. I mean, it's some of those early coins are not so formulaic as like the Spanish period, where it's the bust of the king and the shield or the pillars of Hercules. You got a lot more variety in that, especially in the early Republican periods of so many of those South American countries.
What is the craziest thing you've seen happen at a coin show?
The craziest thing I've seen happen at a coin show?
There's some good ones. You also could have gotten lucky and nothing crazy.
Yeah, look, I go to fewer shows than you probably might think, but I'm trying to think of a good story. This isn't such a crazy story, but I just, there was a very cool coin that walked up to the table, and I knew exactly what it was, and just was able to talk with the owner of the coin, and I think he really appreciated that. So it wasn't a super expensive coin, but I think it was $50,000 or $100,000 at the time, so it was significant value. And he had taken it to other people, and they just didn't know what it was. And they were like, "Oh, let me call my colleague." And so I think having the knowledge, I mean, in this day when you can pull out your phone and you can have more information at your fingertips than someone would have had in a whole library 50 years ago. But I think actually getting experience and learning about the numismatics of it is important, especially for so many younger kids who have grown up in numismatics in more recent years, where all the information was at your fingertips. So I think studying and learning the coins so that you can internalize some of that and still lean on all the wonderful resources we do have at our fingertips. I mean, look, we all depend on PCGS Coinfax or Stax Bauer's auction archive. I mean, there's so much information there, but to learn it and to be able to recall it, or at least know where to go for the information.
Is there anything else you want to plug or mention while we're here?
No, I think we're good. We'll save some stuff for a future time.
Yeah, for sure. Any other future shows that you'll be at?
I'll hit the Baltimore shows. I mean, try to get to all the 3 Baltimore shows. ANA, be in Europe again for our Brune auction in October. That's the last week of October, so I'll be out there. The next big one will be ANA. I assume you'll be there.
Yeah, I'll probably be there.
Isaac, thank you.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what we're doing here.
Okay. I'm Noel White with Affordable Coins and Currency. We're here at the Central States Numismatic Show.
And we got coins.
And we have plenty of coins and currency throughout the place, without question. So, yeah.
So when did you get started in the coin collecting industry?
So business-wise, it was actually 20 years ago this year.
Okay.
So I've been collecting for almost 30 years, but 20 years ago. So about 2005 is when I actually bought my first shop and got into business doing it. So when I was 11 years old, I was helping my uncle refurbish houses near where I lived. And my grandfather, who passed away before then, owned an antique shop. My uncle took it over. At the end of the day, I would stroll through the antique shop for what I want for pay, and I was picking coins that he had for pay for the day. So that's what got me started into it.
Do you remember what the first coin was?
I don't. So I had gotten some. First things I picked out were incomplete sets of Lincolns and Jeffersons, things like that.
When did you realize that this was going to be your career?
When in 2005, after doing business with a coin dealer, he offered to sell the business to me.
How did that whole thing go down?
I was a customer of his for 2 years prior, and he had been mentioning it and this and that, and I told him I'd probably be interested in if he wants to sell it, and he ultimately said he wanted to, and so ultimately in 2005 I bought it. And
what was that first couple months like as a brand new coin dealer?
Well, I got some of the inventory from him. It came with everything that he had, and it was definitely fun because a lot of people were realizing what I paid compared to what he paid, and now it's a lot better, so they very much appreciated that. So, but obviously it was, for the first probably 5 years, it was a learning curve in the business because I hadn't been, and I was a collector. I understood what the business was, but learning, again, picking up how to learn how to grade coins, to accurately grade coins and be able to price them accordingly. It's not something you just know. You have to learn that.
Yeah. What's your coolest deal that you've done that you like to brag about?
Probably the 1893 S. Morgan that somebody had up on eBay. It was in the same town I was in. He was getting messages saying, oh, it's counterfeit, it's real, it's counterfeit, it's real. I messaged him, said, hey, can we meet? I'll take a look at it. So we met, looked at the coin, he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, either way, I'll sell the coin to you for what the bid's at. It was $800. And he goes, I'll give you the other coins that were in the box also. He found them in the bottom of the box slot he bought at auction. So he paid like $10 for the whole box. So in the bottom of the box was this little box of coins that he didn't know was there. And he didn't care about coins. He just wanted the stuff in the box. There was a cat bust half in there, a $5 gold piece, and a $2.50 gold piece. He gave me the whole box for $800, which the bid was at the time. I got back to my shop, checked out the coin. It was authentic. Went down to an Albany show I did the week later and sold the coin to another dealer for $4,500.
That is a very cool. I like that stuff. Is there anything you collect outside of coins?
So I'm into model railroading, model trains. So I have a HO scale layout that I collect that stuff. And
How does that develop? You just like trains and trains?
as a kid, I had a friend at my church that had a nice layout, and I kind of appreciated it, seeing it, and I enjoy working with my hands, obviously, but in smaller things too. So when I was around 14 or so, I broke my bone right here. So my arm was in a cast for over 9 months. So I got into buying balsam wood and building buildings from model railroad. And yeah, so for that, obviously having a family that was in the antique business too, it's just unfortunately snowballed with me too. So
if someone gave you $100,000 to build a collection from scratch, what would your first 3 coins be?
that's a funny question, because probably my first 3 coins would be the first 3 ones that I found that were undergraded.
But explain that to me. Why?
Well, obviously if they're undergraded, they're worth more than what people are asking for them.
Okay, sure.
So you have an automatic return.
Right, so you'd specifically go look for some undergraded coins.
Yep.
And buy them and then have them reslabbed.
Yep.
Okay, do you know which coins those would be? Like which ones?
Well,
it's less about turning a profit and more about building a collection.
right.
It's like a dream collection.
Right. So like an example, last week at a show, I bought an 1899 Morgan, which is a better date.
Yeah.
That was in a NGC fatty, graded 63.
Okay.
It's a 66 plus coin. So would I want that for my collection? Yeah, it's in an old fatty holder. It's grossly undergraded, and it's a 99 Morgan.
Fair enough.
So those are the kind of things I would look for. I mean, not too many 93S's are undergraded, so I would probably find coins that were either undergraded like that in older holders, or older holders for dimples and certain dimples and things like that, or tougher dates.
Weirdly more specific, but also less specific answer that I got from the other people.
What's tough is because trying to take the dealer out of you to do that. So like, as if it's just like a personal collection,
Yeah.
it still would be. I would probably go after any key dates that are undergraded, as a collector.
That's just something you like.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know how to grade, so that's to other people's disadvantage because I know how to grade.
Yeah. And it's like a little win for you too.
Yep.
You find that thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Got it.
And trust me, there's plenty of other dealers that know how to grade too that do the same thing.
You love showing people coins,
Absolutely.
and I think this is a great opportunity to pull out like 3 of your favorites that you have in your booth right.
Here we have a 1794 half dollar. It's an Overton 101A. That's a number they gave for the different die varieties and die variations for them.
Beautiful. Can you explain to somebody who doesn't know why this coin is so significant?
So this is a first year half dollar for the U.S. This is the first year that they made half dollars in the U.S. of 1794. So, yep. And what's cool about these is, I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up on the camera, but it has a lettered edge.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, cool. So it says, it says 50 cents, and it says, it says half dollar on it in the United States. They did it very nicely. This coin's an XF40, and it's a pretty nice condition for a coin that's 231 years old.
Yeah. So in that case, when they're minting it, is it like the collar itself has the edge lettering infused into it? Or I guess it wouldn't be infused in that case.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah. So just pretty nice coin to say the least.
Gorgeous. So what do you grade this as?
This grade's an XF40.
Okay. And PCGS front bag is clean.
Yep. And this is about original as you can get.
Yeah, if it was clean, it would be shiny.
Right. Well, even no offense, even if it had a light rub or whatever from being 231 years old, there's accountants for that because it's 231 years old.
Right.
Yeah. You just don't get anything that much original. Actually, a dealer last week in New Hampshire actually had it. I just had to get it because it's a first year half dollar. You just don't see these very often.
Right.
There was 23,464 of them minted.
That's insane.
Yep. The next one is a pretty tough date. It's an 1891S Morgan, but it's in deep mirror proof light. Can you see it?
Move that around a little bit.
Yeah, so you
Beautiful.
can get those mirrors. So how this happens on certain Morgan dollars is when they change the dies over and put brand new dies, they highly polish them. When they strike, it has that high mirrored finish. That mirror finish only lasts on about 6 to 8 coins before it dulls it down to a PL, which lasts for about 100 to 150 coins, and then that polish wears completely off to where you just have the business strikes of what you see and normally deal with every day. But that's why deep mirror proof lights have a much higher premium for them, because of that scarcity. And I have a little affinity for deep mirror proof like Morgan dollars.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. Yeah, cool. Is there anything else you want to mention or plug before we wrap things up? You want to talk about the cherry pickers?
Yeah, if you want. Pretty cool thing happened a couple months ago. I was asked to be the editor for the Cherry Pickers Guide, and I met with the president and vice president of Whitman here at this show to talk about the future of it, and it looks like we're going to be able to get to a point of being able to produce an annual book. So it's not going to take 10 years for the next one. So I'm very honored to be able to help out with that, and look forward to being able to help the industry in keeping the younger generations involved.
Yeah, and I think if there was anybody qualified to edit the Cherry Pickers Guide, it would be you.
I appreciate that very much, my friend. Thank you. Yep, been an absolute pleasure, and yeah, I've had a pretty good show here. And
on TikTok, go follow Cryptocurrency.
Thomas Yurum, president of the American Numismatic Association, past president of the Pennsylvania Association of Numismatists, known as PAN, and we're at the PAN table because I'm the only Mohican here. So, once you're in these organizations, you just pick up the torch, and I was happy to be able to represent them here at the table. So, kind of have a few hats on at this table, which is fine.
Yeah.
Working out fine.
Yeah. When did you first start getting started with coin collecting?
Got started through my dad's brother, who was a trust officer at Pittsburgh National Bank at the time. Now it's called PNC. He met me on a street corner when I was about 14 or 15 years old at Wood Street and 5th in Pittsburgh. And he gave me a red book and an A&A membership. And then he walked me up to a dealer friend of his and, introduced me. I remember I could hardly see over the counter. And so, and that's how I started. And then I also joined the local coin club right around that same time. The local coin club was pretty vibrant. This was in the 70s. This would have been in the 70s. At that time, obviously I couldn't drive, so either my parents would drop me off or members would pick me up, take me, and so forth. So when I became president of that club, which I'm still president of the George Washington Numismatic Association in Washington, Pennsylvania, I now reciprocate, and some people that can't drive at night, we pick them up, take them, and so forth, and they get to enjoy the meeting once a month. So that's pretty much how I started. A lot of people did this with the the paper route thing. I didn't do that. I did work at a convenience store all through high school and college, and I picked up some things there, but a lot of that by that time in history in the 70s, a lot of the stuff had disappeared. Most of the people that really got into this in the 60s are the ones who really picked up where you could go down to the bank and get a bag of silver dollars. That was long gone by the time I started.
Did you ever go down the coin dealer route, or have you always been more of a collector?
Just more of a collector, although...
At 1:30, Jeff Garrett will give a presentation of the great Kentucky Hoard of U.S. Gold.
So they were just announcing there Jeff Garrett's Great Kentucky Hoard Collection, which I've seen his presentation numerous times. As a matter of fact, he might be one of our speakers at the May show here coming up, debating about being able to attend, and he thinks he's going to be able to, so if he does, he'll be one of our presenters. And if he can't at this one, he'll be in October. But you can always go to PANCoins, PANCOINS.org, and we have our dealer list there, we have activities, and everything you need to know about the convention is on there. So that wasn't your question, but that was my commercial break.
Sponsored segment.
That was the sponsored segment with the microphone on. So you had asked me if I'm not really a dealer, although you become a dealer by default when you're a collector.
Sure.
So you end up, whether you're trading your personal things or people come to you. In the 70s in Pittsburgh, when I started, we had 6, 7, 8 stores, coin shops. Now there's maybe 1 or 2, and none in the city that I'm aware of. So the storefront operations from a dealer point of view, just I'm sure you experience it too, people are working through the internet, they're doing some of the shows here, it's not the same. So if you really don't know the network and you really don't know, then you search out people that are collectors and get advice, and then all of a sudden you can buy some things if you want, or at least point people in the proper direction for liquidating their parents' collection or their grandfather's collection, or even just bullion, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the price of metals at this juncture.
How do you feel about that? Where do you? I know it's kind of pointless and whatever.
Well, yeah, the crystal ball, right?
Right. Yeah. But
if I was going to be a weatherman, I would. Well, I have my opinion, and I guess being in the financial services industry is my vocation. My thought is it never hurts to take a profit. So, every situation's different. You can't just blanket say you should do this or do that. You look at your own situation, and if you've made a profit and you want to take it, you don't look back. If the market goes up, you've made your profit. If the market goes down, you probably buy back. It's one of those things. So, but every situation is unique. Sometimes you sell things because you have debts or college or weddings or whatever you might have in your own personal situation. Sometimes they're advantageous because you liquidate something that you might not have, and it goes down, and you've made a profit basically because of default. But it's when you don't have to make any sales that you have to say, okay, do I want to be in a cash position for when things go back on sale? And when things go back on sale, there's never a problem if you have the cash.
Yeah. So you buy the dip kind of guy. Was there a specific coin that made you fall in love with the hobby?
I remember getting a set of Maundy money, which is British. We just came off of Easter here, and Maundy Thursday is from that, and it's about a tradition in Britain. And I got that set when I'm probably not even 20 years old, just because of that. And so the foreign money has always been an attraction to me, and the monarchs in particular. So that was that. I gravitated also towards Canadian commemoratives and Canadian dollars and a lot of Canadian coins. I guess what I could say is you collect what you like, and sometimes it might not be an entire series, it might be a particular coin. But one coin that would have been one set, and then there were some metals that I saw, and I got kind of interested in exonumia as well.
Okay. I've always wanted to at least hold an Olympic gold medal, but I have yet to see one.
Well, at the A&A Museum in Colorado Springs a while back, Doug Mudd had a whole collection of Olympic medals.
Really?
Yeah, this would have been probably around 2017 or 18. And, with the Olympics, I know we have some there, but some were on loan. And so maybe he'll bring that back out at another Olympiad.
Yeah.
Which is soon.
So is there a coin that you think is undervalued right now?
Well, it's the marketplace, and what might be undervalued to one is not to another, right? So it's kind of like the supply and demand. As far as undervalued, though, series do have those. For instance, commemoratives in different times have skyrocketed. Red coins have skyrocketed. And I think, like you had mentioned earlier, buying the dip, when you realize that some things are more in favor than others. And I think you only learn that by talking with dealers and seeing what's out there. But I would say that there are some commemoratives that are probably have made the dip that's there. Another way to look at it would be buying the best quality you can buy with the funds that you have and the resources you have. So if you can buy populations that in a grading situation that are in the top 10 pop or whatever, I think you're never going to go wrong. You might think that you paid more, but down the road, I think people are looking for quality and the best that they can possibly get, and those are always going to hold their value. So that's kind of where I would focus once you hit a certain point in your collecting career. It doesn't happen overnight unless you have a good trust fund.
Right.
And I think it comes down to an individual who, you don't have to be collecting at that stratosphere. You can be a collector that's still using the blue books. You can be a collector that's still trying to complete series. You can be, I've been more of a type collector after a while. became more of that, interested in that, and trying to hit really nice type for the grades that I could afford. But there's nothing wrong with having series and just trying to fill in at whatever grade you're able to afford.
If someone gave you $100,000 to build a collection from scratch, what would your first 3 coins be?
I think if I had that, my first 3 coins would be 09 SVDB 66 red, probably something high grade because it's going to hold its value. I would think maybe a 1916 Standing Liberty quarter in 65 maybe. Once again, it tends to be rare and tends to hold its value. And then the final one would be a 1907 high relief $20 gold piece.
Okay.
Flat rim, wire rim, wouldn't matter. You could probably pick that up for in 64 in the 40,000 range. So I think I just spent your 100. or maybe you could maybe even get it in 65. It all depends how much you paid for the 09 SVDB, which would be you can get that coin probably $10,000 or less, depending.
That's the second SVDB that I've heard today.
Is that right?
Yeah. Have you noticed any big trends or shifts in the market so far this year?
I think it's always fluid. I think that the market's always fluid, and that's a good thing. So obviously with gold being the way it is, it has gone straight up, which is always a concern to me. And anything goes straight up, people still think it's going that way because of some of the economic conditions both here and internationally, but we've always had a lot of those issues. So you just do what you can do, and like any other investment, when you're doing bullion versus numismatic items, it's totally different. If you have we just talked about the 1907 high relief 20 is obviously worth a whole lot more than the gold value, so it's not going to be affected by a bullion move.
Does it scale? Like there's $3,500 of gold value to the coin, and then also its collector value, and like it moves a little bit?
Well, I think the collector value is gone. I think collector value is gone. You're buying the bullion piece now on some of the XFAUs that are just common date. Their numismatic value was probably X 2 years ago, and now it's doubled because of the gold, not because of necessarily because of a rare date or anything. Right. People that have bought those over the years for 500, 600, 700, 800, whatever you bought it at, you have to look at, when the bullion price changes, that coin's it's not going to stay there because of what it is.
Yeah, even for those larger gold pieces, just because this is a concept I've thought of. Let's take King Farouk 1933.
The gold, the $20 gold piece, right.
If gold goes from 3,500 to 3,200, does that coin lose that $200 value, or is it just?
It's always going to be what it is.
Okay.
Because it stands on its own. Market fluctuation in bullion and what it's composed of, composition, isn't going to drive it. And I think another thing to collect would be, there's a lot of great artist series that you could collect, so you can look at designers and artists from not United States Mint, Royal Mint, Canadian Mint, different mints, and put together a series of modern coins that reflect the designs of some of the best contemporary sculptor engravers.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite series?
Some of my favorite series, Susan Taylor does a great job up there in Canada and did a lot of the Canadian coins. You'd have Jody Clark, who's done a number of them, a couple of the series there in Britain that were the rock stars, their series there. These are all affordable, and they're all wonderful stories and history behind them. And so those are a couple that I think there's some great modern day series. And then you're going to have all of the Marvel and DC comics and different ones that are out there in the different shapes. The minting process is totally different than even 5 years ago. You can see all the unique mintage of doing even not round coins, but different shaped coins. And, so you can collect in a lot of different avenues now than what it was before.
Yeah. Are we sort of in like a renaissance of coin minting at this point?
I think some of the techniques and operations and machinery that are now out there is just going to continue to be refined, and it's just going to continue to just do great stuff. Some of the machines out there, just in what they're able to produce and make, the quality is phenomenal.
Yeah. Did you get to do the coin minting experience at the Berlin show?
Yes, it did.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
and you could turn that coin, and that machine turned it around so quickly and put the mark where it was supposed to be, like instantaneously.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yep.
Do you collect anything outside of coins?
Yes, I collect autographs.
Okay.
I've had a number of autographs that are historic. A lot of them I like to get myself if I can, but that a lot of them are no longer around. So, but yeah, I have some presidential autographs. I do some philatelic stamps,
Okay.
so that it's not because I think they're ever going to go up in value. I just like them.
You just like
Yeah, so stamps have been not the same marketplace, but you do it because you like it and you collect it and so forth. And I have numerous collections, first day covers, and other commemoratives. And some of them I've tied to the coins. Some of them I've tied to medals. For instance, there was a Rachel Carson stamp. It was maybe a 13 center, and Rachel Carson is from the Pittsburgh area. Very interesting book that she did. She was ahead of her time. And then we had the ANA medal with Rachel Carson. So I put the stamp in the middle and everything all together. And there's a lot of things like that.
one thing I like about you, Tom, is you're very presentation-minded. I don't know. I feel like when I talk to you, we're always talking about the exhibits, like how you can put the coins together, and you mentioned the museum.
I tell you what, I really got back into it when I started exhibiting again. And just like anyone else, I started when I was a junior and I did things. I worked with Florence Shook actually, and met a lot of people through exhibiting at the ANA in particular, and then at my local club and local shows. And I think a great thing to do if someone really wants to get in and learn about what you collect and what you can't, and even if you don't own the coin, give a 15-20 minute presentation at your local coin club. I mean, I think that's a great experience. Some people don't like getting up talk, but you know what? No one's critiquing you. You know what I mean? Just share your knowledge and learn and build on it. But when I got back into exhibiting more formally, probably 15, 20 years ago anyhow, I don't remember exactly, but I came back and the exhibiting world had changed quite a bit. Things were always pretty fantastic when it came to the way people showed their coins and so forth. But I had a good mentor, Mac Martin. Mac's still living, and he's from the Georgia area, down Dalton area, that area. And, he went over some things with me and said, well, you can tweak this, tweak that. You go there and you think you're going to win this and win that because, you're putting this great exhibit together. And then you get there and it's like, whoa, So you just grow into it. And then it's really not about winning. It's just about, to some degree it might be. You get satisfaction, I guess. But to be able to show what you've collected and learn from what you're collecting, you can do it through exhibiting. And the fun tables right here, they have a great exhibit area down at the Fun Show in January when they have their show, and they have a terrific base of exhibitors at the Florida United Numismatists. Yeah. And when they do their show in January. Yeah. Good stuff. And you can do a one case exhibit, doesn't have to, and put one coin in. Yeah. And talk about it. Right. And you can take a token that someone might not have any clue about tokens and talk about it.
And that's what I love about coins is just that there's unlimited things to learn.
Yeah, and you go back to the history of the American Numismatic Association back to 1893 and so forth, and you look at the numismatic journals that are still out there and archivable you can get a lot through the Newman portal. A lot of those are just terrific. Even looking at the old ads that were in there. You look at the Abe Kossoff ads, you look at Stax, you look at all these different ads that were in there, people that, were pillars of the industry and made it what it is. And I have some people that get the numismatists that aren't coin collectors, but they're historians and they love reading the history, and then all of a sudden they don't realize there's a coin associated with it, or they don't realize, some of them I've kind of turned around into a collector in some regards.
I feel like it's hard to like history and then look at coins and
right.
not want to buy it.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, congratulations, Isaac, on what you do, and it's really great that you're able to capture moments for many collectors and preserve the history and preserve the knowledge that you're getting captured through your videoing and videography.
I feel like it's hard to like history I feel like it's hard to like history. 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 I feel like it's hard to like history.